I tried to stay awake for 11 days. The world record almost killed me. The world record for staying awake is 11 days and 25 minutes. It was set in 1964 by a 17-year-old named Randy Gardner. He did it for a science fair. Researchers from Stanford flew in to monitor him. By the end, he could not complete simple sentences. He hallucinated. He forgot who he was. He recovered. Eventually. I wanted to find out how far I could get. This is what happened. Day 1 and 2. The easy part. The first 2 days were not difficult. This is the lie that sleep deprivation tells you at the beginning. Your body is running on reserves it has been storing for exactly this situation. The alertness feels sustainable. The mind feels clear. You think, I can do this. Maybe further than I planned. I kept a log. Every hour, a note. What I was thinking. What I was feeling. Whether I felt the pull of sleep and how strong it was. Day 1 log, hour 16. Fine. Tired but functional. Nothing unusual. Day 2 log, hour 32. Still manageable. Eyes heavier. Concentration requiring more effort. Nothing that felt like a warning. I did not know that the warning would not announce itself. It would simply arrive. Day 3, where it starts, hour 56. I was reading and realized I had read the same paragraph 4 times without registering a single word. Not because I was distracted, because something in the processing chain between my eyes and my brain had quietly stopped working. I put the book down. Hour 60, the first microsleep. I did not know it had happened until after a gap of approximately 3 seconds that I experienced as nothing, as if time had simply been cut and rejoined. I was sitting upright. I had not fallen, but I had been gone. The brain, denied the sleep it needs, will take it. In fragments. In gaps so small you cannot detect them from the inside. Day 3, hour 64. Something happened that I have difficulty describing accurately because accurate description requires a functioning mind, and mine was beginning to not function accurately. I saw something in the corner of the room. Not a hallucination in the dramatic sense. Not a monster. A shape. A peripheral presence that disappeared the moment I turned to look at it. Consistent enough to be unignorable. Inconsistent enough to be impossible to confirm. I wrote in the log, something is in the corner. I know it is not there. It is still there. Day 4 and 5. The territory changes sleep deprivation at 72 hours. 3 days. Is documented medical territory. The symptoms are consistent and replicable. What is less documented is the subjective experience of being inside those symptoms while also being the person observing them. The paranoia was specific, not the free-floating anxiety of stress. A targeted logical feeling conviction that something was wrong, that something was being kept from me, that the people around me knew something I did not. This feeling was completely indistinguishable from rational concern. It felt like perception, not symptom. Hour 88. I could not remember the word for the thing I used to drink water from. I could see it. I could hold it. I could use it. I could not name it. The word was simply gone, not on the tip of my tongue, not retrievable with effort. Absent, as if it had never existed. Hour 96. I began to understand why the researchers flew in to monitor Randy Gardner in 1964. Not because they were curious, because they were worried. Day 6. The question. The question that arrived on day 6 was not dramatic. It was quiet and it was specific, and it was the most frightening thing that happened in the entire experiment. I was sitting at my desk and I thought, what day is it? Not in the ordinary way of losing track of time, in a different way. A way where the question felt genuinely unanswerable, not because I had forgotten the date, because the category of day, the concept of time moving in a linear sequence from one day to the next, had become difficult to access. I knew that time passed. I knew that days were a way of measuring it. I could not feel it. The sequence had become abstract in a way that it had never been abstract before. I wrote in the log, I am not sure which direction time is moving. Then I read what I had written and I stopped the experiment. Not because I was afraid of the record, because I understood for the first time with complete clarity that the thing keeping me connected to ordinary reality was the same thing I had been systematically destroying for 6 days. And ordinary reality was preferable. The aftermath, I slept for 14 hours. When I woke up, I felt, for approximately 20 minutes, completely normal. Then the headache arrived. Then the nausea. Then, a period of approximately 2 days during which my short-term memory was unreliable in ways I could detect but not predict. By day 4 of recovery, I was, by all measurable external criteria, fine. The internal experience took longer. The corner of the room was empty again. The paranoia had lifted. The words had returned. The direction of time had become obvious and unremarkable and entirely taken for granted. The way it is taken for granted by everyone who has not spent 6 days trying to remain conscious past the point where consciousness is willing to cooperate. Randy Gardner, when asked about his 11 days afterward, said that the hardest part was not the hallucinations or the paranoia or the physical deterioration. The hardest part was the last day, when he could no longer tell whether he was awake or asleep. I stopped at 6. I understood him completely. What I know now, the sleep deprivation experiments of the 20th century, the Stanford studies, the military research, the documented cases of fatal familial insomnia, all point toward the same conclusion. Sleep is not rest. Sleep is the process by which the brain maintains the conditions necessary for consciousness to function. Remove it, and you do not simply get a tired brain. You get a brain that is progressively losing its ability to perform the operations that make you, the sense of self, the processing of time, the distinction between what is real and what is produced internally. All of these are not fixed properties of being human. They are maintenance dependent. They require the nightly work that sleep performs. I stayed awake for 6 days and 2 hours. The world record is 11 days and 25 minutes. I will not be attempting to close the gap. Some records exist to be witnessed, not broken.